All right, so a couple of days ago, we roasted some new coffees that we got from a new supplier, and I'm really excited to get these ones tasted and sampled. We're going to be doing a bit of a pour over. I like to do pour overs after I've done a cupping of them because a pour over is the way I'm going to serve it. So I think it's the best way to determine if I actually think the coffee tastes good. So we're going to be testing out two new coffees from Peru. In the same region of Peru called Cusco, but never offered a Peruvian coffee before. Had many of them in the past and they've all been really good. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna grind them. After we grind them, gonna give them a smell. Then we're gonna pour them into the V60 filter. We're going to pour some water on them, give them a wet grounds smell, see what kind of scents we're getting from that. And then we're going to do a full brew and do a smell on the cup, and then also do a tasting test. Usually during this process, I'm taking lots of notes from different types of flavors that I'm getting. And it's really interesting because although these are both from the same region of Peru, they're probably gonna have very distinct differences in them. They're both from single estate grown farms, which is really exciting. That's something that we like to look for. We like to showcase those single estate coffees, but they're from areas that were pretty highly regarded from the supplier. So I'm really interested to get these going. We're gonna get them ground and I'll show you my process. So we've weighed out 15 grams of coffee. We're gonna do a very standard pour over here, 15 grams of coffee to 250 grams of water. That's very standard. That's what I like to do when I'm sampling, when I'm taste testing and whatnot. And we're gonna leave it on a medium grind size here. Since this is the first time that we're brewing it, we don't know if it's gonna brew quickly or brew slowly. So I like to leave it right in the middle at 20 here and see what types of speed that we're getting, see if it's sitting inside of the grounds for too long, if the brew time has run for too long or too short. We're gonna make note of that as we're brewing it. But usually the standard medium grounds, especially for a Central South American coffee, usually should be fine. These are both wet process coffees as well. So I typically see on wet process coffees, they brew a little bit quicker. So medium grounds is what we're setting it to. All right, so the first one we're gonna throw in is Peru Cusco. It's a single estate coffee and we'll get it running. All right, we just ground our coffee and now we're gonna wet the paper filters, get everything warm. We want to ensure that the carafe and the V60 is warm because that can fluctuate as the coffee is brewing. So we're gonna get some hot water inside. All right, so the first Peruvian coffee has been ground. Let's see what we get on the grounds. Interesting. It's a little bit of citrus. Almost like a raisin. So on the dry grounds, we're getting citrus tones and raisins. And a little nutty, actually. All right, so let's get these grounds in. So our second one is also a single estate coffee and still from Cusco. All right, so the second grounds, let's see what we get on that. Ooh, a little more fruity there. I would say even bits of cherry. Like a dried, almost raisin as well. Some type of dried fruit. Yeah, dried fruit. Oh my God, it's cherry and dried fruit. It's like a dried cherry, which is not uncommon, especially if you're getting a cherry note in the beginning, to then, as it sits a bit, as the grounds sit, to think it's a little dried. But I don't get any nuttiness like this other one. So it seems as if this one is going to be a little more sweeter. They're both roasted to the exact same internal bean temperature. I try to shoot for around 200, try to shoot for around 410. That would not taste very good if they were 210 internal. Try to shoot for 410 internal bean temperature. Depending on how they're going through first crack, I sometimes go a little shorter or a little bit longer. Since both of these coffees are from Cusco and pretty much the same, they were grown in the same elevation, they followed the exact same path. So I went to 411 degrees for both of them. And now we're ready to brew. So we're gonna go through the whole process of pouring them. During the blooming process is when I'm gonna smell some of those wet grounds, and then as it's finishing the brew, that's also when I'm gonna smell the wet grounds again. So we'll pour for about 2 minutes, and then it should be done brewing by about 3 minutes to 3:15. And here we go. Bit of caramel. Oh, this one's spicy a little bit. And with this pouring method, I'm gonna do a fast pour. The fast pour, I think, brings out more of those undertones of the coffee that I'm looking for. Looking for any kind of imperfections. Usually you would get the imperfections on a cupping, but I'm searching for them as we're doing a brew. We have our temperature at 200 degrees because the roastery is a bit colder today. Usually I would want to brew at 198 and finish at about 194 or so, but it's a bit colder today, so we're starting at 200. All right. A little bit of the dried fruit is still there. Wow, that cinnamon is crazy in that one. Not much is coming out. Now, and this one has a lot. They both brewed the exact amount of time that we're looking to brew them for, which was 3 minutes. So this is great. Now we're gonna smell it in the carafe. Yeah, the dry fruit has stuck around in this one quite a bit. And a bit of the raisin. The nuttiness has vanished in the carafe. But I do get a little bit of cinnamon now. And what I'm doing here is every time I get a very distinct or a different smell, I'm making note of it. And that's important because if I'm looking for specific coffees that I want to bring in that will be a little bit different than what I'm currently offering, I'll compare the grounds notes, the cup notes, the tasty notes to everything that I already have. I don't want to bring in two coffees that smell or taste the exact same way because then they'd be competing against each other, right? They want to be very distinct and different from each other. So, all right. Oh, so this is kind of funny. The dry fruit smell in this one is far less than the dry fruit smell in this one. And I'm kind of thinking which is really interesting for this area, is that it's as if a blueberry kind of shriveled up and kind of became some kind of a raisin. Because it smells like a blueberry, but it also has a little bit of cinnamon to it that is kind of making it like a dry fruit. With slight hints of citrus notes. Kind of like a tangerine. Yeah, I'm getting a little bit of tangerine in there. All right, let's get this into a cup. Yeah, the cups are warm. So first one we have is Fabiana. I'm gonna pour half a cup. The other one is Yolanda and Violina. All right, now that we're on the phase of actually ranking them, what I'll do here is I have specific categories that I put them into where I rate them from the aroma, whether I really like the aroma or if I don't, the balance of it, so the whole coffee as if it's balanced, fruitiness, citrus notes, nuttiness, a bunch of different things, and I will note them all here. And at the end, I'll kind of give them a grade that I think that they are worth. So first one up is Cusco Fabiana. So the nuttiness vanished, which is good. Personally, I'm not the biggest fan of nutty forward coffees. The dry fruit has been maintained throughout the cup. I can't put my can't put my finger on it, but it's not very sweet. It's balanced. It's not the cleanest cup ever. And it actually lingers in the back of your mouth a little bit longer. Clean the palate and try out the other one. Without even trying both of these, I can just assume by the smell of the whole process from grounds to wet grounds to in the carafe that I'm gonna enjoy this one a lot. Woo! Okay, this one's good. This one's good. All right, let's get back on track and see what we're getting here. Ooh. Okay, so cinnamon as I swallow. A bit of, I'm going with the dried blueberry notes here, which is very odd for a Central South American, an American coffee. It's very typical to get a kind of blueberry note from an African coffee, like Ethiopian, for example. But getting one from this region, to me, is a bit surprising. So this just goes to show the differences of the farms or the estates that they were grown in, right? The soil, right? They're in the same region of Cusco, but just because they're in the same region, there are many differences to how they were tended to, harvested, processed, a number of different things that could make them have different notes to them. This one's very good. Okay, so it's definitely a cleaner cup. This one is a lot cleaner than the first cup. I will say that it does still stick with you a bit. Although it's clean, there's a bit of a very slight aftertaste, but it's not a bad aftertaste, definitely not. It just sticks with you a little bit longer, so definitely want to clean your palate. The cinnamon is there. It's a bit brighter. So the first one, very little brightness to it, and I'm a sucker for bright coffees. Brewing style that I like to brew with is going to be a little more bright forward. But this one is just not as bright. It's a little more thick, I would say, sits with you a little bit longer. Not the biggest fan of this one, but pretty big fan of this one. And as the coffee is cooling down, the notes change a little bit. Most of the time you get more of those notes. You're able to extract more of those notes as the coffee is cooling down. So I'm really getting more of a little bit of a baking spice to it. Subtle sweetness as well. Yeah, kind of a little brown sugar-esque. Just kind of a darker sugar. Ooh, yeah. So the acidity is hitting a little bit more as it's cooling down, which I love in it. We're gonna pour the rest of this one. This one is really good, so we have to finish it off. I could definitely brew another cup of this one and sit down for the next hour and just slowly sip it. It's very good. There's a really good chance that I'm going to start offering this one, as long as I can get my hands on a few bags of it. We'll see. But usually what I'll do next is I'll make notes of these. I'll usually sample about 6, 7 or so from different suppliers in specific regions or countries, areas that I'm looking for. For example, I'm really looking for a Central or South American coffee at the moment because our Colombia is getting very low and I want to replace it with something that is kind of distinct to those areas. I kind of proved myself wrong with this one because I was getting a bit of a blueberry note from it, as I mentioned, which is very stereotypical of an African Ethiopia coffee, right? So it isn't always the case, and it's actually quite satisfying to see a coffee from the area that is very typical of, you know, a caramel or a citrus or a kind of nuttiness to it, to really get a berry note to it. So what I'm going to do next is finish these off. We're going to continue to roast the other samples that we have. We have some samples from Costa Rica, from Colombia, from Ecuador, and Bolivia. as well as these two from Peru. I just thought it was cool to show you guys a video of two Peruvian coffees that are from the exact same region. So very similar to the Ethiopian video I made a couple of weeks ago, where I was comparing them and showing you the differences in them, although they're from the same country and relatively close to each other in the same region of the country. But these are exactly in the same region, and it's night and day differences in the notes that you get from them. So I really enjoyed making this video. I'm always sampling coffee, so I thought it'd be cool to just set up a camera here and just talk about how I'm doing it, how I'm sampling coffee, how I choose my next coffees. And if you enjoyed these videos, please consider liking, asking any questions on the comment section as well. I like to answer those. I'll review them every so often and give some answers to them. I love just talking about coffee in general, so you can shoot me a message and I'll reply back to you. But we're gonna get this ordered. Hopefully it'll be in by the new year, so then we can start offering it in the first part of January. But I'm excited about this one so far. We'll see how the other ones are. There may be another one that will take its place as the top kind of Central South American coffee, but we'll see. Please consider subscribing. I'll see you on the next video.